My name is Mark Sargent, and I'm a flat earther. Every day I try to set an example for the community. I make content, I do interviews, I fly to meetups, I place stickers, I leave bookmarks. My car has a license plate that says it's flat. Even my gaming guild is named Flat Earth. When I'm awake, I'm trying to figure out new ways to plant the seed, and I absolutely will not stop until Flat Earth has changed this world for the better, because that's what we all deserve.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Sargent.
I want to thank you, first of all, for having me on your show over the last few weeks to have an opportunity to spread the news about Question Everything Conference, so I appreciate that.
Oh, happy to do it.
Yeah. For a lot of us here today, we became accustomed, and whatever the word is, for Flat Earth through Flat Earth Clues. Who has not seen Flat Earth Clues? Couple. All right. We're going to get you the links on those things so you can check them out.
Yeah.
After all this time, I know you're going to be talking about some of this stuff, but after all this time, what still drives you? I mean, every single day, how do you do it?
What drives me is turning people, really, like a happy flat earth vampire, for lack of a better term. It's true. I love seeing people flip over, and the absorption period varies. I've seen people, in fact, the lowest time, I think, was a woman in California. She turned in 20 minutes. The average person is about 2 weeks, but I love seeing that. I love people watching them turn, having them email me, having them call me and say, I get it. I totally get it. I see where you are, and my mind's open.
Awesome, awesome. Well, in the movie or the documentary Behind the Curve, we get to meet your mom, who looks very sweet, by the way. What about how have your other family members responded to your work?
Oh, it's split. No question. Anyone that gets into it, be prepared for blowback. No question. Whether it's friends or family or coworkers, my family is split almost right down the middle. Where I've got, my mom loves it. My sister hates it, and I've got like twin girls, cousins. One is really open-minded, the other one just threw a whole bunch of profanity at me in an email and said, don't call me until you're done with this. And so, yeah, and I've got two cousins who are guys who will not, because the bulk of the people that are in this community are in the closet, that won't come out. I get those emails every single day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to take too much time, so ladies and gentlemen, Mark's code on Slido.com is MS4. Okay, so you want to get those questions in for him, and without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Mark Sargent.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, so before I even start this, I get some questions about this slide every once in a while, and I thought I'd explain it before I jump right in. And just so you know, my presentation is relatively short. It is, the time I have left, I'll spend half of it on the presentation, and the other half I want to talk to you. I get so many emails and so many phone calls, and I have limited occasions to talk to people in person. And I don't necessarily want Joe, wherever Joe ran off to walk around with a microphone or anything. The venue is small enough that you should be able to just, pipe up. But if you want to, that'd be great too. So either way, that's fine. So this particular slide, I want to mention, it looks like a lot of images that have been drawn by a lot of different cultures, whether it be the Navajo or the Hebrew or the Egyptian or the Norse, or the Maya or the Incan or whatever. This particular one is called The Garden of Earthly Delights by Hieronymus Bosch. And it's old, but the reason why I mentioned it, it's got an interesting trivia behind it, and it's tied into LA and the Hollywood theme, and that is Leonardo DiCaprio actually had this painting hanging over his crib as a child. And I thought that was interesting, and you might want to remember that little tidbit as we move along. So, let's get right into it. It's 2019 Los Angeles, and here we are at a conference talking about the most insane topic to ever hit social media, Flat Earth. And this is only one of several conferences that will be taking place this year, all of them working towards the goal of changing the world, making an old truth new again, and possibly, quite possibly, creating a new golden age. If I would have said those words to you even 5 years ago, it would have been considered the most extreme fringe science fiction. But today, the term and ideas are almost commonplace. So how did we get to this point? How did Flat Earth make it this far? How did Flat Earth make it to this room? How did we get here? It is one of the most unlikely tales you will ever hear, with plot twists that would make Hollywood writers blush. But as I'm fond of saying, the truth is often stranger than fiction. None of what I am about to tell you is secret information. Anyone can look this up on record of what happened. As a matter of fact, I encourage, I don't think it's rude if anyone, by the way, wants to pop up on their phone and start looking at some of the stuff I'm going to show you. And it's simple stuff I'm going to show you. But if you don't, I can assure you, every word of what I'm about to say is true. It actually happened. Time passes differently for people on Flat Earth. It's kind of like dog years. So when I say this story starts in 2015, some of you will say, oh, all the way back then? Yes, the good old days of 2015, back when we had a different president. And well, nothing really else notable, because in hindsight, nothing happened in 2015, which was a partial reason why Flat Earth started to take hold. On February 10th, 2015, I created the first of what ended up being the Flat Earth Clues series. And as some of you know, did not think it would gain traction. I put my name and phone number out there in the first video because apparently I enjoy abuse. You have no idea. I practically begged people to call me up and prove me wrong so I could get back to my sleepy little life in Boulder, Colorado. I've got to mention, by the way, just on a side note, because he'll kill me if I don't give him credit, this particular slide was generated by DITRH, otherwise known as Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole, David Weiss. Great guy, I love him, and thank you for helping me jazz up the clues, because I had a really boring slide on there before. Almost immediately, I was set upon by people who wanted to know more. The emails started pouring in, and the phone calls came in at all hours of the night. My phone is in my bag, it just rings and rings. Podcasts wanted to do interviews, students wanted details, and then there were the YouTube channels. Oh, so many YouTube channels. Sound effects for you. Rob Skiba called me and wanted to debate. During the show, you could feel his mind racing with new possibilities. After the second show, Truth Frequency Radio contacted me and asked if I would like to do a program of my own to talk about Flat Earth and spread the word. And 2015 continued like that, a true grassroots year for Flat Earth. More channels dedicated to destroying the globe model appeared, and the entire conspiracy world took notice, because it was, and still is, the most hated and the most polarizing fringe topic there is. Professionals from different walks of life began to come forward. I should look down at that monitor, I'm an idiot, it's right down there. Military from all branches, pilots, engineers, surveyors, flight instructors, many going on record, all singing the same tune. They had all heard about the curvature of the Earth and how it spins, but none of them used it in their calculations, even when they should have. As 2015 drew to a close, the topic had started to expand its different facets, discovering new ideas almost weekly, and enthusiasm was high. Even though mainstream news viewed it as just another internet flash in the pan, they couldn't have been more wrong. At the beginning of 2016, a Grammy-nominated rap artist named Bobby Ray Simmons Jr., known professionally as the rapper B.O.B., released a single called Flatline. The song was unusual for two reasons. The first was that it included a long audio clip from astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson, as he described the Earth as being pear-shaped. The second was that it implied that the scientist was taking government money to hide the fact that the world was indeed flat. This is the actual album cover from that song, and if it looks familiar, it should. In fact, he even named it, if you guys can read the anagram at the bottom there, it's Educational Avatar Reality Training Habitat, otherwise known as Earth. This is when mainstream media first took notice, mostly because it was new news. This is something they had never seen, and even before the media could fully digest the concept, the scientist in question did the unthinkable. He fired back. For reasons that continue to remain unknown to us, the leading face of mainstream science decided to make an appearance on Comedy Central, and then do a monologue against rapper B.O.B. on why the earth isn't flat. He used no animations, no graphics, and made a point to use profanity at the end while symbolically dropping the mic on the topic. With the help of his nephew, Neil Tyson even made a response rap song, which I won't play here for copyright reasons. The effect it had was, well, flammable. It was, without a doubt, the most interesting story to start off the year and helped fuel the emerging flat earth topic in social media. Because the two people involved, one in the music industry and the other in science, there was no way the average media editor could ignore it. It was just too tempting, too tasty. Mainstream exposed ordinary people who had never looked at a single conspiracy to the simple words that now echo everywhere: flat earth. In droves, the general population searched for the reason why this was a headline and were pulled into the rabbit hole from which few can escape. And if you think that's the strangest thing to start off the flat earth world in 2016, you would be sorely mistaken. Leonardo DiCaprio visited the Vatican, and guess what he brought up on camera? Flat earth. Being an A-list celebrity only gets you 15 minutes with the Pope. True story. Did he talk about climate change during those 15 minutes? A little bit. Did he bring the Pope an art book showing the world as an enclosed structure and how it represented the promise of the future? Indeed he did. And you guys look this, that, in fact, right there in the center of that, that is the Hieronymus Bosch slide, which I showed you at the beginning of this. He's showing the Pope this. You've got 15 minutes, and you're not going to see him again probably for the rest of your life. And that's what you're going to bring up. You're going to pull up on that art book, and you're going to show him that page. It's brilliant. I couldn't write this. After Leonardo left, the Pope left the Vatican and flew to Cuba to meet with the Russian Orthodox Pope. The first time the two offices had met in 1,000 years. We don't know what they talked about, but after he left, the Orthodox Pope went straight to Antarctica, one of the two hot buttons of the flat earth community. That's him right there with some penguins on the Antarctic coastline from Cuba. Freezing, no doubt. Who else went to Antarctica in 2016? Oh, this guy, John Kerry, Secretary of State. And even though that might not sound entirely strange to you, being that we just talked about the popes, it did to me because he did, you know when he was there, when he flew in on election night, when he should have been back in the States backing his favorite candidate. You got to remember that Hillary was guaranteed a win. So if she was absolutely going to win the election, what's John Kerry, Secretary of State, doing down in Antarctica? The second she wins, he's got an instant job for the next 4 years. He couldn't have been farther away. Who else was down there in 2016? Astronaut Buzz Aldrin. One of the only 5, I think, remaining astronauts right now. And that particular shot, he's on a gurney because he had to get airlifted. He's wearing an Antarctica sweatshirt. He was pulled out for health reasons. We never did find exactly why he was down there in the first place. All this happened in 2016. And what it did, and you're wondering, it's like, okay, why is that strange? It's because all of a sudden we started hearing all these stories on Antarctica, and if you cross-reference Antarctica with flat Earth, you get hits all day long. It was just free press. This one's for you, Patricia. The very first Flat Earth Video Award show was also in February of 2016, and yes, I know this image was from the 2018 edition. Yes, there were already so many Flat Earth videos that we were starting to give out awards. By April, Flat Earth regional meetups were appearing. The first was in Houston, then Seattle, and after that, in just about every state you can imagine. And this wasn't just happening in the United States. Across the pond, Dave Murphy from the UK had already made the first Flat Earth television appearance in Macedonia. Good for you, Dave. I was supposed to be on that, but I didn't get it. By August of 2016, I started keeping track of the numbers and the sheer volume of videos that the topic was helping create in social media. We weren't just an anomaly anymore. We were a bona fide trend and gaining speed every month. As 2016 drew to a close, we were a cool club that had gotten some solid attention, but the future was uncertain, even precarious sometimes. Not for long, within a month, all that would change. In 2017, like a sign from the heavens, someone had carved into a hillside in Los Angeles, Google Flat Earth. Even now, the person responsible has never come forward. And if you guys, anyone here recognize that particular mountain, I believe that's Mount Rubidoux. And those letters are, let's back up one slide. Those letters are huge. One guy did this with a shovel. Yep, carved it in, carved the letters in, and then notified the news teams. He just went up there with an orange safety vest, a helmet, and a shovel. Just carved them all out, left, never to this day, seriously, if you're out there listening, I'd love to talk to you. And I know I've made this call, the person's completely anonymous. Happens all the time. Think that's strange? That very night, the same night, the hillside, the dirt was still warm. And that night, basketball all-star Kyrie Irving announced during a podcast that he believed in flat Earth, and the day after that, LeBron James, you know him, the most popular face in American basketball, supported him. I cannot overstate the shockwaves that flat Earth was creating in the sports world. We could have raised millions of dollars and approached LeBron's agent to say those words and probably would have been refused. Without even asking, LeBron ended up saying flat Earth on camera for free. Every sports periodical in the world covered this story immediately. Then the general media dived in. Over the next few months, it was the water cooler topic. The crossover media was surreal. There I was, reading a Rolling Stone article about Jimmy Kimmel and Dave Chappelle on late night television discussing Kyrie Irving and LeBron James and flat Earth, layer upon layer upon layer. To be honest, it only surprised me a little. And when I saw actor Chris Pratt debating flat Earth on ESPN with a panel member and losing, it surprised me a little more. To add to the fire, NBA Hall of Famer Shaquille O'Neal supported Kyrie as well during a live broadcast, but only stood by it for 10 days. Turns out some of his sponsors weren't thrilled with the idea, so a hasty late-night talk show retraction was put into place. Also on Jimmy Kimmel, by the way. The UK program Big Brother kicked off a member for harassing someone who believed in flat Earth. They actually kicked someone off the show to defend a flat earther. It's kind of like hate speech. The Canadian comedy team Trailer Park Boys did a full skit on the topic, and the year was only half over. Regional meetups were popping up all over. Denver, Boston, Phoenix, Las Vegas, Florida, Hawaii, Canada, London, lots of places in the UK. Our first formal debate was in Atlanta. This particular shot was in, anyone? Seattle, Washington, absolutely. There's D. Marble, Patricia Steer. I'm off in the corner with a little map thing. That was really cool. That bar was so loud. We closed it. They had to kick us out. That happens all the time anyway. And secondary media explosions blew up as young American students, influenced by flat Earth sports figures, started pushing back against their science professors. Because of this, science journals finally started pushing back against flat Earth. And as 2017 entered its final months, there stood the crowning achievement, the first Flat Earth conference in 500 years. It might as well have been forever, an ancient truth made new again simply by brave people believing in it. International media flew in for the unique event and were amazed by the conviction, the passion, and the sincerity of all people involved. And is Robbie around here? Robbie Davidson, are you in the room? Oh, it's too bad. He's probably interviewing somewhere or shooting footage. Robbie Davidson gets all the credit for that one. It was really great. It was his baby. This slide. The largest YouTube channels in the world were now wading into the flat earth pool. Late night talk shows were taking shots at us monthly. Who the hell, you know what, I gotta stop for a second because that slide, but I gotta explain this slide. This particular, what you're looking at there is the actual thumbnail from the largest YouTube channel in the world, PewDiePie, which even though I loathe, put that together. As you can tell, that's Patricia Steer and what appears to be Shrek next to her. Oh, horrifying, just horrifying. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, who the hell was Freddie Flintoff? I didn't know, but apparently he was talking about flat earth over in London. Anybody know who Freddie Flintoff is? Anybody? Anybody? It's the British version of baseball. There you go, cricket. Absolutely, he's a cricket guy. And he came out for flat earth, and they just descended on him. HBO, Vice, ABC, BuzzFeed, German television, Russian television, British television, Hustler magazine, university classes, radio stations. The last day, we were media spoiled by 2017. Before 2017 was over, there was nothing we couldn't do. The last day of 2017, rapper B.O.B. was preaching flat earth to Bill Nye the Science Guy. I didn't care. Just throw it on the pile. That same week, Kyrie Irving was using flat earth in his shoe commercials. And still, mainstream science thought we would just go away. So what did we do in 2018? We changed gears. If some is good, then more is better. More meetups, not just every month, but almost every week. I had to build a special playlist on YouTube, and there were now hundreds of regional meetups on it. Like that was San Francisco. That's South Korea. D Marble's in the middle of that somewhere. You can't barely spot him. He's down there just above the K. That's D Marble. They flew him over there for this. Jealous. Totally jealous. You would think at this point that nothing could surprise the media when it came to flat earth. They had already seen a rap battle between a Grammy nominee and the world's most popular scientist. Then they watched the sports world openly debate the shape of the world. What other rabbits did flat earth have in its hat? Well, this for one, Mad Mike Hughes. Is he in the room? Okay, okay. Mad Mike Hughes, the California stuntman, put a giant flat earth sticker on the side of a homemade rocket and literally launched the topic to a new level. Did it prove flat earth? Not at all. Was it covered again and again in social media as the launch was delayed twice? Yes, it was. In 2018, there wasn't just one flat earth conference, there were three. One in the United States, one in Canada, one in Canada, and one in the UK. All different, all fantastic. We now had dedicated venues where we could share our ideas and experiences. Just before the first Canadian conference, the first mainstream documentary on the topic defied all expectations and competed in 22 film festivals in 7 countries. So many showings that the producers could not even begin to attend them all and started flying me out to them. Yeah, because that's going to be objective. What do you think of flat earth? And I did. I just tortured them. It was awful. Heck, we even missed the last 3 were in Moscow. We couldn't send anybody out. There was just, couldn't even afford to send them out, to be honest. And during all this, the numbers, the precious stats that I love, reached for the impossible. In June of 2018, the flat earth topic, which started at a modest 50,000 search results, had hit 20.9 million. The cherry on top being that the President of the United States was sitting at 20.8 million. And somewhere along the line, the powers that be decided that we were getting a little too excited. The U.gov survey, and I encourage you all of you to look at it, said it all. Americans were now starting to lean towards flat earth too quickly for their taste. Indeed, a full third of young Americans young 18 to 24, didn't believe in the globe anymore. YouTube took matters into their own hands and tore down their own scoreboard so that we would stop pointing at it. 20.9 was as far as it went, and then that was it. I could not look up the number anymore. They literally tore down the algorithm. They just erased it for everybody, not just us, every topic, from potato salad to tractors, because people look up potato salad. Google went before the United States government and said they were doing what they could to deal with the flat earth problem that kept spreading. You heard me right. It's on television. You can watch it. But secretly loving us because we kept people on YouTube, now the largest television network in the world. And a side note, this isn't actually in here. There was a programmer that worked for YouTube, and when he came out, they were asking why things get recommended, what they do on the sidebar. And he said, well, and of all the topics, of all the millions of topics that are out on YouTube, he said, well, if the average person who gets into flat earth watches 20 videos in a row, what do you think we're going to recommend? That's true. We suck them in. Oh, and these guys. National Geographic tracked some of us down and condemned the flat earth movement as being a danger to medicine, a threat to technology, and had the potential of sending science back to the Dark Ages. I thought they were being a tad dramatic, but they did have a point. We weren't going away, and they knew it. Behind the scenes, they told me that it concerned them that science wasn't meeting us on the battlefield. They were hoping they could rally some of them to engage us. It didn't work. Science did everything they could to avoid the topic, to pretend that it wasn't there and that people weren't listening. Shane Dawson, one of the largest, I know that wasn't the greatest segue in the world, but bear with me. Shane Dawson, one of the largest channels on YouTube, made a single flat earth video in 2018. It now has 24 million hits. They talked about this video on The View with Alan Alda. I can't make any of this stuff up. Shane's demographic is under 20 years old. What is science going to do to stop that? Nothing. Because it's not a real topic, remember? It's nothing when Jaron and Globebusters and Karen B and FE Core convince people with long-distance laser tests. When Rob Skiba does weather balloon tests. When Jay Tolan Media does daytime infrared photography. Don't worry about it as we look at boats that refuse to go over the horizon, as we turn heads with street activism. There's a group called Globe Lie who already finished a town-to-town tour in the UK, and in 2019 are going to extend it to Europe. And this conference here, we're just getting started. 2019 is going to be the year of flat earth conventions. There are events scheduled in New Zealand, North Carolina, London, Amsterdam, Dallas. This is my message to science. What is flat earth? You'd better figure it out quick, because we're bringing the fight to you now. We've become one of the most trending topics in the world with almost no resources, and we did it in 4 years. We can break down your space videos, your images, and you'd better believe we're going after your theories, because that's what most of them are, just theories. Oh, don't make me come down there, man. Don't do it. That's okay. It's 2019, and now we have an army. Channel after channel, rising to 6 figures in YouTube. Jaronism, Rob Skiba, Celebrate Truth, Controversy 7, Red Pill Philosophy, ODD Reality, just to name a few. And the 5-figure channels? I've literally lost count. Channels dedicated against NASA, channels dedicated to experiments, channels dedicated to debates against globalists, channels dedicated to activism. So many different facets, it feels more like a school than an invasion force. And that makes sense, because every great army has an academy behind it. And we've created one from the sheer volume of our online content. In closing, I'd like to remind people of my mission statement. My name is Mark Sargent. I'm the freshman recruiter for a wonderful university/academy called Flat Earth. It is everywhere, just waiting for you to discover it. The people involved are kind, sincere, and most importantly, open-minded. I'm hoping that you will find what I found: knowledge, truth, and love for each other. The way this world was always supposed to be. Long live Flat Earth. Thank you. So, I don't know if I got any good slides to be icebreakers. This one's not bad, although it kind of steals from Paul a little bit. One of the reasons, real quick, I like, this is actually a pretty good icebreaker for me because it is out of all the slides, Paul's got tons and tons of great moon stuff. I usually just show this one. It is a single shot from Apollo 12, and it incorporates so many of the different things in it. And I just ask people, I say, hey, how many things do you see wrong in this picture? Anyone? Anyone? Throw them at me. Anything. Okay, let's do shadows first. Shadows is probably the most obvious, which is everybody knows if you have one light source that's 93 million miles away, the shadows can only go parallel. All the shadows are going to go the same direction. You can go outside and test this right now. And yet there's a hot spot here, and you've got shadows coming in straight. They're going in 4 different directions. And the only way that could happen is if a light source is less than 50 yards behind him. Of course, no stars in the distance, and you never see that ever, 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 because that's the oldest thing. That was I actually agreed when they decided, don't put stars in, because remember, if the stars are out of alignment, because everything is time date stamped, if the belt of Orion's in the wrong place, you'll have some nerd in his underwear in Nebraska at 3 in the morning. He's going to stare at it and go, oh yeah, absolutely. Anyway, Paul.
Look at all that disturbed sand around underneath the lunar module there where it landed.
Yep. Blast crater, 10,000. Yeah, 10,000 foot-pounds of thrust, landing in ash, and there isn't a splay pattern underneath it. You've got a VHF transmitter with 1969 battery technology that's beaming 10 frames per second video and sound a quarter million miles an hour, or quarter million miles through a Van Allen radiation belt, and you're hitting it with pinpoint accuracy with no problems whatsoever. It's brilliant. It's so many, and of course, one of my favorites is that the module itself looks like it was put together by a homeless person. So, seriously, you guys ever want this? Just email. If you want any of this stuff, just email me, and I will send you this image. When you blow it up on a big screen, like Paul's saying, it's just amazingly glaring. So, sorry. So, anyone have any questions, thoughts, comments? Yes, you.
Hi, Mark.
Yeah.
Hello. Thanks. My name's Daniel from Central California.
And Joe, you'll keep track of the time, right? Perfect.
Quick question. I've only been researching flat Earth for a little under 2 months.
Yeah.
Totally new.
Yeah.
I've been looking into flight paths, and I know you probably don't have a great answer for this.
I'll try.
But okay. Yeah. Whatever you can. Anybody else too want to jump in? But there are direct flights that Qantas is doing.
I know.
From
Santiago, Chile to
Melbourne, Auckland, and Sydney.
Yep.
And I've been double checking it. A lot of people were saying, oh, those aren't direct flights, or they'll let you book the flight, but the flight actually is never going to take off. They never sell enough tickets to actually make the flight go. But I just checked it again today. There's one that's leaving in about 2 hours. So.
Absolutely. And I knew that, heck, 4 years ago, because I made Clue 7, and I said, look, I can't find any direct flights. The fact that 95% of the flights in the southern hemisphere that go from south to south are multiple connections, that should bother people anyway. Again, I talked to a corporate travel agent. She goes, you don't know how much hell we go through trying to book things. There are capital cities in the south, from like Africa to South America to Australia. Capital cities, doesn't matter how much money you have, you cannot get a nonstop flight. But to be fair, there are a few out there, just a handful. And that's why I made Clue 9, otherwise known as the Magic Show, which said you can't prove the route. And by that I mean, yeah, the map is screwed up. We know there's some perspective issues with the map, and that is, yes, I do believe direct flights exist, I really, really do. But the latitude and longitude drops off into approximated or estimated mode once it gets off of radar range off the coast, and everybody tried it. I mean, the planes, even the graphic will still be there. That's the interesting part. You'll see the graphic, but the latitude, we'll call them Latin long. Latin longs disappear. They just go into, we have no idea where this plane is. It's more or less a guesswork. And it's not just the south we see that in. You see that in the north as well. So if you have a plane that's leaving, like, say, from here to Hawaii, you're 150 miles offshore. Oh, yeah, that graphic's still there. Latitude and longitude, not there anymore. Does that kind of help?
Yeah, that is helpful. The other issue that I saw is the flight is about 10 and a half hours,
Yep.
something like that.
Yep.
But if you ran a straight line on the flat Earth map, it would be significantly longer.
I know,
right?
which is why we part of. Hang on, let's go back a couple slides. I like the slide better anyway. Part of Flat Earth University is advanced map making. We have dedicated people that just all they do is try to crank. We had a guy that in England, I think, lost his mind trying to rewrite the map. Because there's something going on that we don't know. That would be Tiger Dan, the legendary, if you guys don't remember him. But we know we're working on it as far as the map stuff. We know there's some kinks in it, trying to figure out what they are. So. It wouldn't, but it's not nearly enough. I mean, that wouldn't be nearly enough to sway anybody back to the globe. You got to remember, we've got, and I wasn't exaggerating when I've said this to other people, we've got a 99% retention rate, which is once you go down this road, you're not coming back. There's nothing to go back to, even if you wanted to. There's just not enough. You want, some people do. It's like, I want to go, the line from Matrix, some cipher. It's like, why, oh, why didn't I take the blue pill? Right? People try. It's like, oh, please, blue pill. Nope, can't. So, anybody? Yes.
Thank you. Building on what he was saying, in Behind the Curve, that pink-haired woman, when she started looking at the flight paths and she was like, oh, what's this little guy doing? And she claimed to have found a couple that you could actually see across the ocean. I meant to ask you about that. Like they were
She was seeing
the south.
Yeah, she was seeing the graphics. She absolutely was, and she's not a pink-haired woman. She was a very nice recent graduate from some Southern California physicist department. She now is apparently brown hair. Her pink hair's all gone. I think she was in the same theater you were at the LA Film Festival. And yeah, she went through and that was editing. That was perfect editing, which is like, okay, she saw a flight going across that ocean, the southern Atlantic, I believe. And she goes, oh, look, there it is. It's so easy to prove. And it's like, really? Because no one would have thought of that, I don't know, in the first week that I did it. Come on. Come on, don't be shy. Yes?
Thank you. If I may, to add maybe a bit of a healthy dose of skepticism.
Sure.
Why now? Why the last 4 years? Why the sudden surge? I mean, based on...
That's not skepticism. That's a great question. Yeah. I love it. Okay, why is it coming out now? And I get that a lot. For me, you're absolutely right, because we have not been, as much as I love telling the story about this weird journey with all these weird celebs and strange circumstances, we have not been hindered in really any way, shape, or form. When I was talking about Neil deGrasse Tyson, and let me circle back around, Neil deGrasse Tyson, when he went on Comedy Central, I listened to his rant. As aggravating as it was, I was disappointed because he didn't even bring his A game at all. He didn't, he could have brought out the Himawari footage or some sort of cool animation or something, and he didn't. He didn't do it. He was just him and a microphone and nothing else. And Google, if Google and YouTube, they're linked together, if they wanted to shut us down, that would be almost nothing in the world of software to do. You could have changed those recommendations. All you have to do is say, never ever recommend Flat Earth or these combinations of Flat Earth to people. They were helping us. Now, if you want to say, okay, they were doing it for money, that's one thing. But if the powers that be wanted to shut down Flat Earth, they could really stunt us on a regular basis. And all they've really done, including tearing down the scoreboard, is curb our enthusiasm a little. It's almost like they know it's coming. It's like they knew. I think this was part of the thing anyway, which was you can only hide the shape of the world for so long. And what I'm saying here, for the people that don't know what I'm talking about, if you discover, the powers that be, if you discover that the world is a building in 1960, a giant building, and you have to try to keep that a secret. Somebody else built it. If God built it, you're trying to hide God. How do you do that? And how long can you do that? You're only going to hide it for so long. It's kind of like hiding cigarettes from your roommate. You can shuffle it around a few places, but eventually they're going to find it. It just takes a matter of time. And in this case, our technology kept up, our detection technology caught up. And that is between social media, digital HD zoom, and a few other things, we've now, even though we should have a completely different future. I mean, what happened to our Jetsons future with flying cars and laser guns and robot servants? None of that happened. But we did get some cool things, and it was the cool things we have now that are helping us. So I think it's been, shorter version, I think it's being allowed to happen. I just don't, it's part of what I do every day. I stare at this invisible chessboard and I try to think, okay, what are you guys up to? If you've ever played chess against somebody and they're in a completely different wavelength than you, and they're putting pieces on the board and you're going, what are you doing over there? That's kind of what I feel like when I'm looking at the other side of the board for me. So, yes?
Are you still planning to stick yourself inside of a vacuum chamber with an astronaut suit?
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. No, I absolutely will. Look, I'd die for flat Earth in a second. I absolutely would. And to prove that, I'm not kidding. To prove that, I try to come up with a simple experiment. Because some people say, oh, you just shoot you to space. Put you in a rocket, shoot you to space. No, there's an easier way. And I'll give credit to Paul, which is the astronaut suit. The astronaut suit for me is the crux. It is, if you don't know is it a proverb? Or whatever the story, the lost nail, of how it is the weakest link in the chain. Anything's just as strong as its weakest link. And that is that the astronaut suit is impossible. Then everything else that shows the astronaut suit is impossible. By that, I mean the astronaut suit, I don't care about the heating and cooling and oxygen and humidity. I don't care about that. That we can do that in scuba suits all day long, which is really all it is. Tell me how an astronaut suit, a soft suit, stops the vacuum of space. It cannot do it. It would go as tight as a parade float. They would just keel over, and that would be it. And they would burst, and they would die. And so my challenge was, and remember, they've been doing this, even if you could tell me that microprocessor technology and some magical science could do this today in 2019, tell me how they did it in 1969 with analog, with weird gauges. Why didn't we ever hear astronauts complaining about how much oxygen they had left? Nobody talked about minutes, like I got 6 minutes left, Neil, I got to get back in, or whatever. Nobody ever talked about that. So my challenge was, all you have to do is dig me up any spacesuit, because none of them ever failed in the history of any space program. Nobody's ever died in a spacesuit because of the spacesuit. Give me a freaking spacesuit, put me in that, like, the largest vacuum chamber ever. Hey, look, it's got to be done. They're never going to do it, though. And then pull the switch and see what happens. Tell me how I don't die. Of course, they'd never do it, and they make me sign waivers and stuff like that. But yeah, I was totally willing to prove the point, because we would get up to that discussion, and even before I got into that chamber, I'd go, how does it work? Open up the backpack, and I'm not talking about a G-force suit, anything that's tethered. That's cheating. That's something you have in a fighter plane. In fact, it's funny, when you look up, you want hard videos to find astronaut in a vacuum chamber on YouTube. Try to find that. The first video that comes up, if I'm not mistaken, even today, is James May, who is from Top Gear, from that UK show. And they put him in like an Air Force suit, and he was scared to death. And they put him in that vacuum chamber, and they crank it up. Now, granted, it's tethered, but, he just goes stiff, because that's what it's supposed to do. Everyone knows that in a flight suit, because you're sitting down, you're not going to move around, it goes stiff to keep you from blacking out. Yes?
I have an answer to his question, I think, just another way to look at it.
Yeah.
So I got some scripture for you.
Ooh.
From Daniel 4, it is written that thou, Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. And then Isaiah 55:8-9 says, it's answering the importance of why now, why I think
right.
So from God's word, just also, God's thoughts are above our thoughts, his ways are above our ways.
Yeah.
So his timing is always perfect in everything. And in Luke, just one more, nothing is secret that shall not be made manifest, nothing that is hid shall not be made known and come abroad.
But that's excellent, and I got to mention real quick the Daniel thing you did, and fortunately I'm not as good as in chapter and verse as other people. That really spoke to me, because I remember hearing that for a long, long time when I was growing up, and that is, it's one of the only things in the Bible that talks about, it's like, you just witnessed something, don't you dare write it down. Whatever this is, apparently, is something that can't be masked with a metaphor, or analogy, whatever it is. And you know what, for me, it's flat Earth, which is the shape of the world, whatever it is, something that you cannot be mistaken for anything else. So yeah, that's a really, really cool thing. Yes, you, all the way back there.
How would you explain the satellites?
Oh, come on, you're gonna softball that one in? Well, no, I mean, there's lots of people here that could talk to that extent. But satellites for me, first thing I would look at, even before, if you haven't looked at this at all, look at the high altitude balloon program of NASA starting in the 1950s. We can launch satellites that are so much more powerful and so much larger than anything you could put on a rocket today with hydrogen balloons, because it has better lift most of the time. Look up some great footage, and a lot of them are launched. Does my mic go? I'm okay. And by that I mean we can lift stuff with balloons upwards of, 4 tons? And it's incredible. I mean, 4 tons, putting it on a rocket, it's cheap. So are there things up there? Sorry, short answer to your question. Are there things up there? Yeah, of course. We can see stuff flying around. Did they go up in rockets, in my opinion? No, probably not. Why would you? Spend the money on something else. Remember, NASA gets $52 million a day, guaranteed. And Trump signed it, I don't know how many years in advance, which is interesting considering the space shuttle program was shut down in 2011. And they're thinking about selling the ISS. So what exactly are you spending $52 million a day for if the Mars program is just a pipe dream at this point? That kind of help? There's a lot, I know, there's a lot of stuff. If you're just looking into this now, trust me, I'm not going to convince you. All I can do is pull the pin on the grenade and let you run with it. Because it's, you know what, I'll go the other way, which I've said a couple things. Don't look into it. Don't look into flat Earth. Seriously, do not go home, do not Google flat Earth. Do not go to YouTube and do any of that stuff. Trust me, you'll be better off for it. How's that? Yes?
How does NASA really funnel all that money?
What do you mean, what do they spend it on? Oh, come on. You never watched Independence Day? You can black site that stuff into just about anything you want. $52 million a day, you don't have to spend, okay, to be fair, you are employing a whole bunch of people. And by that, I mean, you guys already know this, NASA, 99% of the NASA employees I never ever thought were in on it. You know, anyone that turns a wrench and builds a fuel system and puts together the capsule, look, the rockets go up. That's not even a question. So you are hiring a whole bunch of people, and there's a lot of people that make good livings working at NASA. But yes, the extra money you can use for other things. Come on. Freedom ain't free? Something like that.
All right. For the rest of the questions, I want to encourage you guys to go to slido.com, put in MS4. Mark will get the questions, and we'll finish those up during the panel. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Sargent.
Thank you. Thanks, buddy.